Thank you for watching my channel. Please subscribe and like. Now back to the news. James L. Buckley, a conservative beacon who won a shock election victory to represent New York in the U.S. Senate in 1970, has died. He was 100. Buckley's death in a Washington, D.C. hospital was the result of complications from a fall, his nephew, author and political satirist Christopher Buckley, told the New York Times Friday. Nicknamed Buckley, the older brother of National Review founder William F. Buckley Jr., catapulted to national fame with his victory for the Conservative Party in the three-way Senate race between Republican incumbent Charles Goodell, who had been appointed by Governor Nelson Rockefeller to serve out the term of the assassinated Robert F. Kennedy, and Democrat Richard Ottinger. Buckley, who had sought to challenge Goodell for the GOP line but was rejected by state party officials, hammered both the Republican and the Democrat for their dovish stances on the Vietnam War. With the tacit backing of President Richard Nixon, Buckley won the election with just 38.8% of the vote. Buckley's victory was the last for a third-party Senate candidate until Joe Lieberman won re-election as an independent from Connecticut in 2006, and no non-incumbent Senate contender has won on a third-party ballot line since. Buckley served a single term in the Senate, during which he championed adding a so-called human life amendment to the Constitution, in the aftermath of the Supreme Court's 1973 Roe v. Wade decision. He was also the primary sponsor of the Family Educational Rights and Privacy Act, which limits access to students' records by third parties, and the Protection of Pupils' Rights Act, a parental rights law which allows parents to inspect instructional material used as part of the educational curriculum. An effort was made at the 1976 Republican National Convention to draft Buckley as the party's presidential candidate. The nomination eventually went to President Gerald Ford, following a strong challenge from future President Ronald Reagan. That November, Buckley lost his re-election bid, which he contested on the Republican and conservative line, to Democrat Daniel Patrick Moynihan. Buckley made one more attempt to return to the Senate in 1980, but was defeated again, this time by Connecticut Democrat Christopher Dodd. Reagan chose Buckley as his Undersecretary of State for International Security Affairs in 1981. Beginning in 1982, Buckley spent 3 years as president of Radio Free Europe Radio Liberty, based in Munich, Germany. In 1985, Reagan appointed Buckley to the U.S. Court of Appeals for the District of Columbia, where he sat on the bench for more than a decade before taking senior status, making him the rare American to serve his country in all three branches of government. Buckley also served in World War II, enlisting in the Navy in 1942, and seeing combat in the Pacific before his discharge as